The 4 things he'll never find again. Watch this now. There comes a time when you stop chasing clarity from someone who was always unsure about you. And when you walk away with dignity, grace, and self-respect, something powerful happens. Not only do you get your power back, but he loses something he'll never find again. You weren't just someone in his life, you were the rare combination of love, loyalty, and depth that most people spend a lifetime looking for. He may not have noticed it when he had it, but the truth is, he'll eventually realize what he lost. And here's what he'll never be able to replace, no matter who he finds next. There are certain qualities in a person that are so rare and so deeply felt that once they're gone, they leave an emptiness that's hard to fill. Emotional safety is one of those things. It's not flashy. It doesn't show up with grand gestures or expensive gifts. It shows up in the small, quiet moments. When someone truly listens, when they ask how you are and genuinely care about the answer, when they sit with you through the storm instead of rushing to get away from the rain. Emotional safety is about being able to let your guard down, knowing that you're not going to be judged, mocked, or made to feel weak for your feelings. It's about knowing that your vulnerability won't be used against you later. When he was with you, he had something most people don't even know how to articulate they're looking for. You were his soft place to land. You didn't just hear him, you understood him. Even when he was distant, even when he was confused or moody or afraid of his own emotions, you remained steady. You didn't ask him to be perfect, you simply asked for truth and effort. And in return, you gave him space to be human. That's what real connection is. Not perfection, but presence. He might not have fully grasped it at the time, but you made him feel safe in a way that even he couldn't describe. There was no act he had to keep up with you, no mask, no pressure to be someone else. And once someone has tasted that level of comfort and security, they never truly forget it. The problem is, emotional safety is often undervalued until it's no longer there. It's like breathing clean air. You don't notice it until you're choking. Once you're gone, he'll start to notice how rare it really was. He'll find himself in conversations that feel shallow, moments that feel disconnected, laughter that feels performative. He'll miss how you made hard days feel softer. He'll miss the calm in your presence. He'll miss how you noticed the small things, how his tone changed, how he went quiet, how something felt off even when he didn't say a word. That kind of intuition and care can't be faked. It can't be replicated. But you can replicate, and the truth is, he may try to find it again. He might seek it out in someone new, hoping to recreate what he had with you. But emotional safety isn't something you can manufacture. It only comes from genuine love, trust, and emotional intelligence. He may find someone fun, someone exciting, but when life gets hard, when he feels lost or unsure, he'll realize he doesn't have that same anchor anymore. He'll miss the feeling of coming home, not to a place, but to a person. And by the time he truly understands what he had, you'll already be too far gone. You won't be angry. You won't be bitter. You'll simply have outgrown the need to be the one offering peace to someone who never learned how to value it. Being real in a world full of facades is a rare and often underappreciated trait. You didn't pretend to be someone you weren't. You didn't filter your thoughts just to fit his comfort zone. You showed up with your whole self, your heart, your truth, your vulnerability, your boundaries. And at the time, he might have mistaken that honesty for intensity or your openness for being too much. But the truth is, you gave him something that very few people dare to offer: your authentic presence. That kind of emotional courage where you choose to be seen, even at the risk of being misunderstood, is powerful. It's the kind of depth that creates connection beyond the surface, beyond the performance, beyond the shallow games so many relationships are built on. You didn't play hard to get. You weren't calculating every text or every pause between calls. You didn't sit around waiting for the perfect moment to express how you felt. You said what was real, and that scared him. Because people often aren't ready for the kind of emotional truth that forces them to look at themselves. It's easier to be with someone who doesn't challenge your patterns, someone who's content with small talk and empty validation. But you weren't that. You were someone who held up a mirror, not with judgment, but with love. You were real in a way that made him question whether he was showing up as his best self. And that discomfort, that was growth knocking on the door. But instead of opening up to it, he pulled away. He told himself it was too much, too soon, too intense, when in reality, it was just too honest. Now, as he moves forward and connects with others, he might be drawn to people who feel easier, less confronting, but eventually he'll realize that surface-level ease comes at the cost of meaningful connection. Conversations will feel repetitive, interactions will lack spark, and though there may be chemistry or attraction, he'll start to feel a hollow space where your depth used to live. He'll miss the way you could read a room and sense what wasn't being said. He'll miss the way you gave more than generic compliments. You saw him, you affirmed the parts of him that he didn't even know needed affirmation. That's not something anyone can replace just by moving on to someone new. You weren't afraid of silence. You didn't need constant entertainment. You could sit in stillness and still make it feel full. That presence, that groundedness, that emotional maturity, it made him feel something real, even if he couldn't name it at the time. And the hardest thing for him now will be trying to find that again. He'll chase it in people who only give him fragments of what you gave him fully. He'll search for that sense of home in women who are still learning how to be honest with themselves. But what he doesn't realize yet is that your authenticity wasn't a personality trait. It was a choice to love deeply, live honestly, and show up with everything you had. That's not something he'll come across again easily, and eventually, the absence of it will speak louder than your presence. Loyalty isn't loud. It doesn't show off or demand constant recognition. It's quiet, steady, and consistent. It's showing up when it's inconvenient. It's being there even when no one else is. And that's what you gave him. Unmatched loyalty. You were the kind of person who didn't just love when things were easy. You loved through confusion, through disappointment, through growth. When he was unsure of himself, you were sure of him. And he questioned his path, you reminded him of his worth. You believed in him even when he struggled to believe in himself. And while he might not have acknowledged that in the moment, deep down he felt it. He knew that no matter what life threw at him, you had his back. And now, he's lost something he may never find again. Someone who stood by him, not because it was beneficial, but because it was real. You didn't love him for what he could give you. You loved him for who he was, flaws and all. That kind of loyalty is built on integrity. Now, today is the day that you become. It doesn't shift with moods, with arguments, with bad days. You didn't walk away at the first sign of conflict. You stayed. You listened. You worked through things, even when it was hard. And maybe, just maybe, he mistook that loyalty for weakness. Maybe he believed you'd always be there, no matter how little he gave in return. But loyalty without reciprocity becomes a burden. At some point, it stops being love and starts being self-neglect. And when you finally walked away, it wasn't because you stopped caring. It was because you finally started caring about yourself more. What he doesn't understand yet is that people don't always leave out of anger. Sometimes they leave out of clarity. You realized your loyalty deserved to be met with the same energy. That sticking around for someone who wasn't choosing you back wasn't strength. It was self-sacrifice. And now, as he navigates life without you, he'll feel the absence of that steady presence. He'll notice how others support him only when it benefits them. How new relationships feel conditional. How people start fading away when he's not at his best. And that's when it'll hit him. He had something special. Someone who didn't just celebrate the wins, but stayed during the losses. Someone who didn't love his potential but embraced his reality. He'll miss how you defended him when others doubted him, how you protected his reputation, his emotions. You didn't just love him, you were loyal to him. And that's not something that comes around twice. Loyalty like yours isn't a given. It's earned. And once lost, it's almost impossible to regain. Because now that you've chosen yourself, your loyalty belongs to someone else, you. And that's the version of you that he'll remember. Not the one who stayed through everything, but the one who finally left. Not out of spite, but out of wisdom. The one who gave him everything and walked away when it was no longer enough. And deep down, no matter where life takes him, he'll always know he lost the kind of loyalty that doesn't come back once it's gone. There's a quiet kind of power in being someone's safe space. It's not about fixing them or carrying their burdens, but about creating an atmosphere where they feel free to be their raw, unfiltered self. That's what you gave him, something deeper than attention or affection. You gave him the emotional permission to let go of the pressure to perform. You didn't expect perfection. You didn't punish him for being human. You gave him room to be confused, to be weak, to be unsure, and still feel worthy of love. In a world where most people are either trying to be heard or trying to protect their egos, you did something rare. You listened without judgment. You didn't use his flaws against him. You understood the difference between a mistake and a pattern. You were patient, not because you were naive, but because you were emotionally mature. He may not have said it out loud, but he felt it. He felt that sigh of relief when he walked through the door and saw you. He felt the peace in your silence, the calm in your presence, the subtle strength in your ability to make everything feel a little less heavy. You were his refuge. And when you are someone's safe space, you aren't just important, you're irreplaceable. Because safety isn't loud, it's not glamorous, it's often overlooked until it's no longer there. And now, whether he realizes it or not, he's going to start feeling that absence in moments he never expected. When life gets hard again, when he's struggling and needs someone who truly gets it, he'll look around and realize that the comfort you brought isn't present in his new relationships. They might be fun, exciting, even thrilling, but they won't make him feel safe. They won't notice the way he changes when he's stressed. They won't sense the difference in his tone or energy. They won't ask the right questions or give the right kind of silence. They won't hold space for his storms the way you did, because most people aren't built that way. Most people are looking for love that feels good, not love that's real. And what's even more difficult for him is that emotional safety isn't something he can just demand or fake. It has to be earned and nurtured. It requires a level of emotional intelligence and generosity that you had, and that very few people do. He'll try to replace you with someone easier, someone less complex, someone who doesn't challenge him to feel. But eventually, he'll crave what he once had. Not just your presence, but your energy, your ability to make him feel like it was okay to be messy, okay to be uncertain, okay to not have all the answers. And once he tastes the difference between surface-level affection and the sanctuary you offered, he'll start to realize that losing you wasn't just losing a relationship, it was losing a rare form of emotional freedom. And by the time that realization sets in, you won't be reachable in the same way anymore, because now you've become your own safe space. You've created that peace for yourself. And the version of you that once gave him that sanctuary is no longer waiting for him to return. The moment you chose to walk away with your self-respect intact was the moment everything changed. Not just for you, but for him too. You didn't scream, you didn't beg, you didn't try to convince him of your worth. You simply let your silence say what words couldn't. anymore. And that silence, that's the loudest message you've ever sent. Because when someone realizes they no longer have access to you, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and energetically, it does something to them. It hits different, especially when they were used to you always being there, always reaching out, always trying just a little harder. That version of you no longer exists, and that realization carries weight. He might have believed you'd never leave, that your heart was so deeply invested you'd always find a reason to stay. But what he didn't understand is that love, rooted in self-respect, doesn't beg to be chosen. You loved him deeply, but you loved yourself enough to walk away when that love wasn't reciprocated with action, consistency, or care. And now, you've become the version of yourself that no longer tolerates breadcrumbs. You've become unavailable to anything that doesn't feel like clarity. He'll remember you not as the woman who waited around, but as the woman who finally chose herself. Without drama, without explanation, without looking back.